we have a roundtable. We're going to discuss VCs working remotely. And for this roundtable, we invited 3 special guests. We had 4, but Lina Chong from Target Global, she couldn't make it. Due to a last-minute problem, she couldn't make it. But we have 3 guests. Then we have a pitching round of 8 startups. I will give you more details later. And that's it. This is the program. This is it. Don't forget, we have a hashtag. It's Wayra Investors Day. Wayra Investors Day. And the Twitter feed is Wayra S. Wayra ES. Okay. Are there any questions? No. I know. I am very clear. I speak things really clearly. So, if there are no questions, let's talk about VCs working remotely. This is the title we've given to our panel. And COVID crisis and the lockdown period has forced VCs to change their investment processes. Digital scouting, virtual pitching, meeting founders on Zoom, or doing online due diligences. For the following roundtable, we have invited some of the most prominent VCs in Europe. Marta was mentioning it at the beginning of the session. We have investors from France, UK, and Spain. And they will tell us how they have adapted to this new situation. And here they are. I can see some of them. We have Boris. Well, Boris is not there. I don't see Boris. But we have Ichazo del Palacio, partner at Notion. Hello. Yes, he is. Hello, Ichazo. We have Boris Golden, principal at Partech. And Chevy Fouillard, investment associate at Nauta Capital. Okay, as you can imagine, Boris is representing a French VC, Ichazo the UK one, and Chevy a Spanish one. Is this right? Yes, they are. Okay.
All right.
Let me explain how I've organized this roundtable in 5 sections. Don't panic, they're very quick. I'm not going to go through the 5 sections, but 5 sections, which I'll explain as we go along. There's no time to waste. Let's start with the first one. Ready? Entrepreneurs fight for money. VCs fight for the best startups. VCs sit down and listen to thousands of pitches at the end of the year. So I thought, why don't we do it the other way round for a change? I suggest they introduce the funds and their work in a 1-minute pitch that has to include answers to the 4 questions. Who, when, what, and where. So, who is the fund? When do you invest? The stages. What kind of startup are you interested or looking for? And where do you, as a fund, add value as a VC or as a fund? And there's a bonus question. If you have time in that 1 minute, our 3 VCs, we can add any latest news they want to share with us. If they just close a new fund, a deal, if they're changing the color of the curtains at home, anything that might be interesting to our audience. Okay? Are you ready, VCs?
Sure.
We're going to start for 1-minute pitch, which I'm going to seriously check with my phone, with Boris Golden. So your 1-minute pitch starts now.
Yeah, hello everyone. So you know what you learn when you're a founder is that you don't need to play by the rules, right? So I don't think I intend to answer those questions, who, when, what, where. Quickly, Partech is an international VC firm with offices in San Francisco, Paris, and Berlin, and also in Africa. And we invest across, very different stages. We have a team dedicated to seed investment. I'm part of the seed team. And we have also a venture and growth team so that we can cover most of the stages of the growth of a company. So our thesis is that, the demand of funders and the need of funders across the stages are very different. And so that's why we've created, different teams, catering to the different needs of the funders. In terms of sectors, we are very agnostic. It means that everything digital can fit into the bucket, of one for an investor. You just need to find the right one. Personally, what drove me, to join VC and to join Partech is that previously I was a founder and I was loving, to mentor very humbly other funders. And I realized that actually the best job to do it on a daily basis and get paid for this is exactly that, venture capital. So Partech, our taste is let's try to be as helpful as possible to the funders, as board members, as a VC with a big platform without being like too intrusive. Check 150K to 40 million, so pretty much for everyone.
Boris, pretty good, but you took more than 1 minute and you know it. And in Boris' cases, he speaks faster than anyone else.
I have no idea. I have no idea. But you set rules, but you have no way to enforce them. There is no countdown, so
I have the countdown, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but you've done more than a minute, so I'm sure it's
I don't
also.
block you. I don't tell you anything. No, let people set the rules for you.
You have to practice a bit more. There, Boris. No, that's excellent. Besides, as I was saying, Boris speaks so fast that your minute and a half counts for like 2.5 minutes for the rest of the VCs. Ichazo, your 1 minute pitch starts now, whenever you are ready.
Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Ichazo, and I am Spanish, but I am based in London. I'm a partner at Notion Capital, which is a B2B SaaS investor. As I say, based in London, we invest across Europe. And we are focused on Series A, investing with checks between 2 and 7 million. We've also started to do a couple of Series B investments, one of them earlier this year. And at the moment, in fact, we are looking at a couple of them too. We are unique in 3 different ways. One, we are only SaaS. I think we are the only fund which doesn't do marketplaces, doesn't do anything else rather than SaaS. 2, we have a very strong platform team to support the companies on the growth. And 3, we are all operators who became investors. Myself, I joined the team 2 years ago. I was running Microsoft Ventures prior to Notion, and I am looking forward to do many more investments from Notion now.
You're a crack. Ichazo, you've practiced this? Amazing. On the
I
dot.
spent 24 hours practicing.
You can tell Ichazo has a lot of experience in both listening to pitches and making them herself. Actually, at the end of the day, VCs also pitch. They have to pitch to their other funds, etc. So, excellent. A minute on the spot. Well done, Ichazo. Let's go to Chevy. When you're ready, Chevy, your minute pitch starts. Wait. Starts now.
Okay. Well, I think I have more advantage to my colleagues because I could practice a little bit. But sure, my name is Chevy. I'm investment associate at Nauta Capital. Nauta Capital, we are an early stage VC fund, Series C, Series A rounds mainly. We are fully focused on B2B software companies. We have a clear preference for SaaS. We typically invest 1 to 5 million euros. This is our initial entry ticket. Apart from that, of course, as the company grows, we can deploy more capital. Sector-wise, we are agnostic, but if we had to mention a common characteristic of all our startups and what we're looking for would be capital efficiency. And I think that something very important regarding the topic of the panel also is that we act as a local investor. So we are one fund, one thesis, but we operate from 3 different offices with fully dedicated investment teams. Regarding where we can add value, our objective is to become partners of the company, another member of the team, and basically become consigliaries of the management teams.
Excellent. Wow. Excellent as well. Excellent. On the spot. Chevy, you've been practicing all night. I can tell. Your pitch, fantastic. 1 minute pitch. It's possible. They've done it. Okay. So thank you to the 3 of you, our VCs. The 3 of them are here representing their fund, the fund where they work. But behind a VC, there is always a person. I mean, usually. We have no time to ask about your life because there's internet. You just type their names and you have all their CVs and all their professional career life. But whilst I was researching about them and diving into their life, I discovered a few fun facts about each one of you. So I have chosen just one per person that I will let the audience know along the session without saying to whom it belongs. At the end, we will find out who is who. You can vote, while you can put if you want to send us a WhatsApp, a message to the chat. And you 3, you can also vote, although you clearly play with an advantage because at least you should be able to recognize yours. Okay, so fun fact number 1. Are you ready? Yeah. One of our investors is our RPM instructor, which means rotations per minute, which is spinning. Don't worry, but RPM instruction, it sounds really cool. Don't look at them because now close your eyes, VCs, because then we can tell. So that's fun fact number one. And we continue with our section 2. And I called our section 2 either or questions. Now that we got off the way, who they are, what they do, what they're interested on, etc., I have prepared an either or round of simple questions. You will see. I will address one short question to each one of you, but feel free to jump in if necessary. Okay, this one, we're going to start with Chevy. Chevy, has your pipeline been negatively affected by COVID-19, yes or no? And if no, why? And if yes, how?
I don't think so. I think that right now our sourcing relies much more on our proactive efforts, basically to reach out to startups and build relationships with some players in the ecosystem. So rather than waiting for companies to knock our doors. So I think that given that we do a lot of outbound, I think that the top of the funnel hasn't been affected that much. Maybe what we have seen though is some changes within that pipeline. For example, when we reach out to companies with cold emails, some of the companies normally, especially during the lockdown, increasingly replied saying that some of the fundraising plans were postponed, so we had to delay. They had to delay the rounds because they were focused on surviving, basically. Something else that we have seen is some companies that were raising bigger rounds, let's say 7 to 8 million, which would fall outside our sweet spot. We met them before the lockdown, then they came back saying that they had revisited their plan. So this is an aspect that positively impacted the pipeline. And sector-wise, I would say that we have seen a change. Though we are seeing less retail tech, for example, or companies operating in travel tech, versus an increasing number of companies developing productivity tools, tools to digitize enterprise processes, all these kinds of solutions that have been benefited by COVID. So I would say that we haven't seen a negative impact in the pipeline, but we have seen a change in the behavior of it.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Chevy. Very clear. Fantastic. All right. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Next either or question for Ichazo. As if I was you, saying our investment process has changed as well as the way we are organizing our time. True or false? And if so, how?
So I would say false. It has been adapted. So yes, it kind of has changed, but it has been adapted. The process, it is the same in terms of the decision-making process. It is the same. But probably, yes, I will agree. We are spending more time doing more calls with founders, trying to get more information and trying to get more comfortable online in a remote way with the team and with the information that we have. One of the things that we've started to do is we've started to do many more. If you can't meet the founders face to face, then you need to do due diligence in a different way. So I think reference calls for founders, the number of reference calls have increased. While before you could meet the founders and the team, right now calling people in their network and talking with many more companies that they worked on has grown. And I heard that some investors are even looking at social networks and what founders do in their spare time in order to identify a little bit what are their behaviors and so on.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Chaso. That was very clear. Okay. Boris, last either or question for you. Are you ready? Has your firm done a fully remoted deal? Yes or no? And how was the experience, if affirmative, or why not, if negative?
Yeah, so we've done a number of remote deals. So I will speak for the seed fund of Partech because we have many funds. With the seed fund, I counted that we had done 10 remote deals. I mean, we closed 10 deals since we cannot travel. And having do full remote deal, we did 4 full remote deal, including one right now that is closing right now as a lead investor. And so those stakes are higher as a lead investor. Why is that? Because not being a lead means that typically you would join a deal where there is already a syndicate of investor, particularly a lead investor, having done most of the work. What is harder, which is very close to what Ichaso just described, is how do you gain a conviction as a lead investor without being able to actually meet the founders in person and meet the team? Um, it's been super interesting to notice that it's actually possible, and the experience of both evaluating the company at very early stage and of building a relationship with the founders is actually, in my opinion, not so different, and so the experience I want to say was deceptively similar, for me at least, to what we used to do before. We're just having conversation on Zoom, doing workshop on Zoom instead of doing them in real life. And because it's a very early stage company, you didn't have the need or the desire to come to the office. They have no office yet, and you need to feel the vibe, the employee, and so on, because it's just super early and only a bunch of founders and 2 employees. So I would like to say it's probably easier when it's very early rather than when it's a grown-up companies where you want to speak and see the office.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Boris. Time for fun fact number 2. Are you ready, audience? Are you guessing with me? Well, I'm not guessing because I know the answers. Fun fact number 2. One of our investors has lived 2 years on an island working, but those who know him or her say he or she was probably surfing most of the time. Who could it be? Look at them. What do you think? Okay, we continue. The answer will be told at the end. This is a question, section 3, for everyone. You can, whoever wants to speak, let's start with Chaso. What is unique about being a VC in the UK, France, and Spain, and how is each country's regulations helping or limiting your work during COVID-19? Could you give us examples, anecdotes, best practices, experiences, do's, don'ts that you've done in the past months?
I mean, personally, I can talk about the UK experience, right? Because that's what I am closer to. Specifically, and the UK, I believe, is pretty similar to some other countries, but in terms of the support that the government is giving, at least in the UK, the government has been matching the funding that companies were getting from investors, which means that companies that they needed to raise maybe 1-2 million, they could raise half of the money, and the government was able to match the other half. And that benefits in several ways. Obviously, during COVID, it's more difficult to raise money, so you only need to raise a half of what you were intending to raise, and then you have a matching. And 2, usually companies were getting maybe a little bit lower valuation, which means that if you get a little bit of matching funding, which is very well priced venture debt, let's put it this way, it's almost a grant, and then the dilution is much lower. But that's basically what the UK government was doing. I would say UK is also unique in the sense that it is a pretty easy or the closest door to the US. I would say if you are able to sell in the UK, you are much more, you are closer to selling the US than maybe if you are able to sell in other countries which don't speak the language, and maybe they operate in a different way. So we are we are all Anglo-Saxon background and countries, and therefore the same way as Spain can easily sell to Latin America. I think it's a good corridor to the US. And so I think even though during crisis we couldn't travel, many companies from the UK were able to expand to the US and start testing US markets from here.
Excellent. Thank you, Ichaso. Very good point. Boris, what about France?
Yeah, so I mean, in France, I think we've had something amazing. Like many countries, but probably France has been extremely successful at this. Is a public help for startup. So it means that we were all expecting at the very beginning of the crisis, the thing that all our startup will be really hurt big time in terms of cash, revenue, cost, and so on. And actually, thanks to subsidies and also, partial unemployment helps and so on, most of our startups are right now very strong financially speaking. So that's something really, really amazing that France has done for, notably is the startup ecosystem. So that's a big, 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 big thing. Right now, we're still impacted from a relationship perspective with something very, very stupid. But very, very needed. But ultimately, it's much more efficient right now, I think, to work from home. Why is that? For example, if I was at the office right now, I would need to wear a mask, to protect my colleagues and myself from spreading the virus. So it means that when we get to the office, we can socialize better with our team members because we are in person. But actually, the Zoom experience is broken because having a Zoom with a mask is really you convey very little, signals, human signals beyond voice. So it means that right now in France, it's much easier to work from home, I think, when you have a lot of meetings and calls rather than doing it in person with mask. So that's a very strange thing, but that's the price to pay to protect the population. So I think it's a good decision.
Excellent, Boris. Thank you so much. Let's talk about Spain then, Chevy.
Well, actually, I can speak about Spain mainly, but given that we have offices also in the UK and Germany, I can compare a little bit Spain to what our colleagues over there are living. I think that the three ecosystems are very different, and we need to act differently depending on how each ecosystem behave. For example, in Spain, the way we think normally is, given that the ecosystem is not that deep, we normally prefer to first look for the best teams and then see what they are doing. While our colleagues, for example, in the UK, what they are doing is understand better the sectors and the technologies, and from there look for the teams. Because otherwise you fall behind the competition. The best deals are always super competitive. Regarding the regulation, I think that we don't look that much into the regulation. So we do our job and we try not to feel impacted, nor positive nor negatively. It's just there. But what we have seen though is some of our portfolio companies that need to raise subsequent rounds, and other investors are participating in the rounds. There's a new initiative by the CTI. Has been launched, a co-investment initiative, and this is something that was born during COVID. I'm not sure if it was exactly for that reason, but it's there, and this is, I think this has been and will be advantageous for many of the startups.
Excellent, Chevy. Thank you so much. We're running out of time, so let's jump into fun fact number 3. One of our investors used to be a DJ and practices snorkeling and inline skating. There you go. You have the 3 fun facts now. You should know. Just look at their faces. Be quiet. Don't say anything. Okay. As I said, we're running out of time, so just a few minutes left. Let me put together section 4 and 5. VCs, if you don't mind. Section 4 was about changes which are here to stay after a few months working remotely. Well, we all know there's other new practices that we've taken. Paloma was mentioning it before, and Marta as well. We've done almost everything remotely. But if you could, guys, tell me one of the changes you think is gonna, just one, if possible, here to stay. And then the last section was the tips or suggestions for VCs. If you want to, for entrepreneurs, well, I know that Boris was saying, I think it's a bit, I don't want to give any tips for VCs, though. I feel a bit overwhelmed with that responsibility, but there you go. So Boris, yes, Ichazo is laughing, but he was a bit like, I don't know if I should dare, hein? Mais non, mon Dieu, c'est horrible, ça. So, Boris, I know you didn't want to, but if you could give a tip for entrepreneurs or VCs and a change that is going to stay for good. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I can do a third thing, which is bring a bit of controversy, because we say that it's not fun when all people agree. So I would disagree with something that has been said. Is that the best deals are very competitive? That's not true. That's not true. Not all the best deals are very competitive. Especially at very early stage, many of what will turn out to be the best deal in the future were not that competitive in the past. So maybe, I mean, an advice that I can give to investors for those who might need it is that everybody speaks about being contrarian, but being contrarian in practice is actually extremely hard. And I mean, I have a hard time being it really. Being contrarian means that you might end up investing in deals that are not competitive at all, where most of your colleagues in other funds will explain you for the very good reason why they passed on the deal. So don't just speak or read people being contrarian. Being contrarian doesn't mean that you need to have fancy ideas, amazing ideas about things. It just means that you need to be comfortable with having a different opinion from other investors and ultimately betting on a company where nobody wanting to bet, maybe because you wanted to take the bet, maybe because you understood something that people didn't understand, or you see something. So I think that that's very important. As to a change that is here to stay, I think honestly it's a very difficult question because it's still a novelty, all this, remote work and all those things. And so stuff that are working in the short term right now for a few months, maybe a few years, might in the long run turn out to be detrimental, right? Personally, I think that the remote component, partial remote or full remote, has been evangelized to everyone. No, I think that most people understand it's possible. It might not be the ways they want to work, the ways that company want to work, their culture, but I think that now remote, at least a few days a week, is something that in many jobs, and especially for VCs, for instance, people understand it's possible, and it doesn't mean that you will lose your culture or whatever. Not saying it's easy. So I think at least this idea is here to stay, and the practice will be much more widespread, even if not all company will be remote for sure. That's because that's a huge change of organization and culture.
Oh my God, I am exhausted. You speak so fast, and I thought I did, but you're better. I'm gonna leave Ichazo till the end. I'm gonna go with Chevy now. Chevy, tell us in half of the time that Boris has taken and half of the speed, your change and your tip, whether for VCs or entrepreneurs, if you wish.
Okay, so I cannot reply to Boris. He's contrarian. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, my tip would be to treat companies and sectors highly benefited by COVID, similarly to the ones that have been impacted negatively. In the end, we have to understand that we are here for the long term and the long game. So we need to take our time to understand what are the driving forces and what are the underlying trends that have generated company revenue to increase. Because in the end, just because the revenues have surged or have declined during the lockdown or during these times doesn't mean that they will continue to do so. So this would be my tip. And the change that is here to stay, I would say that we have to be used to have less face-to-face interaction, and we need to be creative in new ways of approaching founders, and most importantly, how to show them that we are the right partner, and to build conviction and convince them that we are the right investor for them.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Chevy. Ichazo, the stage is yours. Your tips, your suggestions, your final message as a UK investor, but also as a Spanish person. Tell us.
I think I'm going to start from the change for good, which is a fantastic opportunity for everyone like me who is doing B2B. So there has been a clear shift from big and small organizations to work on the cloud. So corporates that were basically used to work on their offices, on premises, and their data was absolutely not getting out of their building, has gotten out to the cloud in many cases, and they've realized that they can operate, in fact, that way. That means many of these people have been buying security staff, remote tools online, and basically through their credit cards, and basically removing or many of their compliance processes that they had. That is going to benefit the future. I think things have changed. Many more organizations are buying online. Many more organizations are going to the cloud with their data, and they are going to be much more used to buy SaaS, and that will benefit our portfolio companies because they are selling SaaS. The sales cycles are going to be shorter, and so that is a good change that I think it will stay. That on the change for good. On the tips and conclusions for the investors, I would say we need to become much more creative these days to win deals. So we can't camp on the entrepreneurs' offices. So therefore, what can we do to build that relationship with the entrepreneurs, which is closer to a Zoom call, which we know is not very close, right? How can we win those deals? So we need to think of much more creative ways to approach them and to work with them.
Well, excellent, Ichazo. Thank you so much. I'm gonna close the roundtable with that message. Be more creative. I would have never thought I would hear that from a VC, but there you go, becoming more creative. We have no time for more. Sorry, guys, it's been fantastic. I know what you're thinking. What are the solutions for the fun facts? So, did you guess? The investor that is an RPM instructor, a spinning instructor, is Ichazo del Palacio, the investor who says he spent 2 years in Menorca working, but really he was surfing, is Chevy Fuya. And the investor who loves music, he's a DJ, was a DJ, and loves sports like snorkeling and inline skating, is Boris, who also has a fun fact in his name with a golden surname, Golden. You know, you must be loved by entrepreneurs. I have to say thank you to Boris, Golden, Ichazo del Palacio, and Sebi Fuya for this fantastic, quick roundtable. Guys, all our love to Spain, Barcelona, to the UK, and to France. And we have to jump into, stay with us, because now we're going to meet the 8 startups that are pitching today. So thank you, and see you in a minute.
Thank you.
Bye.